The US is being given a major award today. The US is used to being number one in the world. The US won more medals at the last Olympics. But over the last 30 years, the US has not been number one in something. It was not number one in herbicide resistance in the world. It was number two in herbicide resistance. And so about 1995, a few people got together and they said, this is no good, we can't be number two, we need to be number one. So how are we going to become number one? I know, we'll have Roundup Ready crops and we'll cover the entire United States in Roundup Ready and we'll be number one in the world. So ladies and gentlemen, would you join me in congratulating the United States on reaching the distinction of removing us as number one in the world? And Jason, on behalf of your nation, we congratulate you, you're number one in the world in herbicide resistance. That was a very half-hearted applause there. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the evolution of Roundup Ready resistance, or weeds resistant to glyphosate in the US, is a threat to global food security. The US is by far the number one agricultural nation in the world and the world's largest food exporter. As Jason said, glyphosate is simply the world's greatest herbicide. Our objective should be to keep it as that in Australian agriculture. The widespread evolution of glyphosate resistance in the US is a threat to world food production and a positive opportunity for this nation. They have had it pretty easy over there in the US for some time. The Americans in this audience, there's a few here, Phil Wester, Todd, Jason, probably a couple of others, you know that's right. There has been a highly profitable and highly productive crop food production system in the US since 1996 with a great technology, and they are going to find it more difficult in the future. And the reality of that is that that's going to give us some advantage, and for heaven's sake, in agriculture in this country, we need a few advantages, don't we? So while that is a lamentable development, we, of course, must learn from it. Whilst we have great experience in managing herbicide resistance in Australia, our objective should be to keep glyphosate working in this country, and we can do that. And those of you that are farmers, those of you working with farmers, our agriculture will be a lot better off if we can keep glyphosate working on our farms, and I believe we can, because we know a great deal, Jason, about how to manage resistance. So you're going to find it difficult over the next 10 years or so. You'll get on top of this, but at great expense in the US, and that's going to provide some advantages to other parts of the world. I don't need to spend much time on this. Massive glyphosate overuse is leading to resistance evolution in the three greatest world food exporters, USA, Brazil and Argentina. That which is occurring in the US will occur in Brazil and Argentina. It's lamentable, but it's reality, and any one of you in this audience could have gone to the US and told them what was going to happen. I tried, but it was a complete waste of time because no one was listening. They are now. Here's just a little problem that we need anybody from CBH and the like that's in here. One of the things that was presented at the Resistance Conference last week, we should be worried about this one, Peter. Japanese researchers working in Japan went down to ships and sampled grain from ships coming into Japan with imported grain. The ships happened to have come from Western Australia. They took samples of the wheat, and they found, surprisingly, ladies and gentlemen, that it was infested with weed seeds. Anyone want to guess which species they were? Wild radish. Any other advances? Ryegrass, wild oats. They did another thing. Not only did they find substantial infestation, they checked them and they found that they were multiple herbicide resistant ryegrass and wild radish. ladies and gentlemen, we should be concerned about that. I don't know what we're going to do about it, but we should be concerned about it, and that was presented at the conference. No new herbicides, Jason mentioned. Learn to love the ones we've got. Learn to love the herbicides we've got. The HSD, Jason just mentioned it, the direct incorporation into the header, let's hope it comes to commercial fruition because, well, you heard what Jason said about it. Relaunch of the RIM model, also the Weed Wizard model from Sally Peltzer and others at DAFWA. The Weed Smart launch, these were all things which happened last week. The RNAi technology that Jason has just outlined, you'd have to say it was one of the few really positive messages. It's the topical, that means you can spray, absolutely amazing, but you can spray in a spray tank RNA, an oligonucleotide RNA, to incapacitate a resistance mechanism. It's compatible with herbicides. Whether it'll come to fruition, I heard Jason say that he believes it will. I asked everybody that I know to be knowledgeable in these areas, and Jason got a pretty mixed reaction from people as to whether it'll come to fruition, but I agree with Jason that if it does, it'll be a wonderful thing, but it's quite a few years away, so learn to love the ways that we manage weeds now. Of course, I wholeheartedly support with what Jason said about that the key to weed management in Australian cropping is to run the seed bank to low levels and keep it there. But those are all things that we know in Australia. You've all got an opportunity now. Every one of you in this room is an expert on herbicide resistance. Any one of you could go to the US and train and teach people in the US. So start looking up the Qantas airfare deals to the US. Any of you that are consultants, you've got opportunities in the US, Brazil and Argentina, because we have just lost the distinction of being number one in resistance, but we have number one in our knowledge about resistance at all levels, and we're going to need it in this country, and there's even opportunities for you to do so internationally. So I think last week was a great success. I don't want to take up any more time, Pete. I'd rather leave it to Jason. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.